Hey everybody, Papa Wiggs here with Wiggs. We're going to talk about our week 2 start sits for Sunday, Monday. Um, so I'll get her started. My first start, J.K. Dobbins for the Chargers. They're playing against the Panthers, even though it's a road game. The Panthers defense looked awful. They could rebound, maybe. I don't know. I just like Jim Harbaugh's run offense. I think that's what the Chargers are going to do, and I think Dobbins is going to have a great game. I think he could have. I don't think he'll pop off for 139 yards, but I think he'll definitely have over 100 yards, maybe 110, and possibly a touchdown. My next start, Jaden Daniels. They play the Giants at home. Listen, I know Jaden got off to a slow start last week. He didn't throw any touchdowns. He only rushed for two. But I think that he's gonna have a game here. He's gonna bounce back, have a game. Uh, which leads me into one of my other starts is Terry McLaurin. With McLaurin and his history against the Giants, I think that him and Daniels are going to connect for at least one touchdown during this game. It could be Daniels' first one that he throws. It wouldn't surprise me if Daniels goes for close to 300 yards in this game and possibly two um, passing touchdowns. Uh, I don't know that he's going to be rushing for 80 yards and two touchdowns again. I still think he's gonna be in that 30 to 50 yard range, and anything inside the 5 yard line, I think you got to respect Daniel's possibility to get into the end zone. So I'm gonna say he could rush for at least one touchdown. The next guy on my list, which some people would say, shouldn't that be automatic? Well, um, is Jordan Mason from the 49ers. They're playing the Vikings, and you guys all know we're Vikings fans, and it is at US Bank Stadium. But I think, well, we just heard CMC is going to be out for at least 4 games on IR. I'll be honest with you, I think he could be out longer. There's something going on. There's a reason that stuff didn't come out right away. They're saying that CMC could possibly um, tear his Achilles if he goes a full goal. So even though they're saying 4 games, I think it could linger on. So I think this is going to be the Jordan Mason show for the next several games. They're playing against the Vikings. The Vikings, are okay against the run. I just think that with this offense of the 49ers, Mason's going to run for over 100 yards. I mean, against the Vikings, and he's going to have at least one touchdown. I don't think he's going to pop off for 152, but I do think he's going to make it over 100. 100, just over like 105, something like that, and at least one touchdown. Uh, Terry McLaurin for the Commanders. Again, he's got a history with the Giants. He always does. He always ends up popping off against them. I think that last week was kind of a flukish kind of game. I think he's gonna have a game here. I think McLaurin could go for at least. Um, I think he's gonna go for at least 100 yards on 7 or 8 receptions and a touchdown. And then my last start this week is Brock Bowers for the Raiders. He had a really nice game um, last week, for his first game. I mean, 58 yards. This week they're on the road against the Ravens. I think that the Ravens they're gonna kind of put the pressure on Minshew. It's gonna force him to go to Brock a little bit more than he did last week. I think Brock's going to have, 7, 8 receptions for maybe 80 yards. I don't know that he'll have a touchdown, but he could. be on the fringe wouldn't surprise me, but I still think he's going to have 7, 8 receptions for 80 yards.
Like the Brock Bowers pick, especially after you benched him or sat him last week in yours. But
Yeah.
I'll go right on into mine. Chris Godwin's gonna be the first one. I know this could be borderline automatic for most people, but I think going into the year, he was a little overlooked just due to him coming off of injury and whether or not he was going to be involved heavily in this offense. And I think he showed that he's still got the talent to do that. And I think he's just a solid start here this week. Him and Mike Evans are a really nice 1-2 combo. I think they're I'd say probably the second best 1-2 punch in the league. They might even be the best right now, just due to the fact that two is hurt. But I think Chris Godwin's just going to find a lot of open holes here this week against the Lions D. The Lions did show that their defense is a little vulnerable in the passing game last week, so I think Godwin and Evans will both have pretty solid games. I think they'll both have touchdowns, and that's kind of just why I said start Godwin, wide receiver two or flex. If you're questioning it at all, again, this is just borderline there for me on that one. But to move on from him, I have Devin Singletary. I was a little hesitant to put him here, but he is playing the Commanders, and their defense really did not look that great last week, both against the passing game and the running game, and I could see Devin Singletary having a decent game here. I'm not thinking like a lot of crazy yards, so I'm thinking like 90 to 100 yards combined with the touchdown, probably in the receiving game. But it's a weak defense, and I feel like this is a nice little RB2 start or a possible flex if you felt like it. And then moving on from that, Brian Thomas. I think we touched on it last week. He's going to end up being the number one receiver in this offense. I know it's early in the season for some of these rookies. I took a chance on Coleman myself on Thursday, didn't pan out, but you look at this Jacksonville offense, and he's really gonna be the guy. It may not show this week, but I feel comfortable saying that it will. Um, he's a big body in the red zone. I feel like he'll have another touchdown here this week um, against Cleveland, who really kind of struggled a little bit last week. But um, I just think in the red zone, he's just going to be that guy. I don't think he's going to go for crazy yards. I could see him being around 50 to 60, but you add a touchdown onto that, and that's enough points right there. Jacoby Myers, I think Devontae Adams will definitely get covered quite a bit here in this game. They do have a tough matchup. I could see him. I could see Myers stepping into catch a lot of shorter balls across the middle. I agree with the Brock Bowers pick. I think both of these guys will have pretty solid games. I don't think Adams is going to do a whole lot in this game. I could also see Madison and Zamir White having a decent production there in the passing game, especially with how good this Ravens defense can be. So you really have a lot of options here. I think Jacoby Myers of the group will probably have the better game personally, but I wouldn't sway away from anyone else. And then lastly, Tank Dell. This might be a little bit of a hot take, but the Bears defense played pretty good last week. They did not allow a lot to happen there in their matchup, and I feel like Tank Dell will get more looks than someone like Stephon Diggs in this game, and I feel like the Bears are going to focus heavily on Nico Collins. And I think because Nico Collins is going to be covered quite a bit more, I think, in this game personally, I think that's going to open it up for Dell. And I'm not sold on Diggs in this offense right now. Yes, he did catch 2 touchdowns last week, but he didn't put up a lot of yards. And he actually didn't receive the ball a whole lot either. So I think Tank Dell could step into a nice little role here in this week 2 matchup and probably go for 60 or 70. I could see him running for a crazy gain like we saw last week with Worthy and a few other guys. I could totally see Dell doing that because they do like to use him a little bit in the run game.
Excellent.
On to our sits.
All right. Sits. My first sit here, I got Luke Musgrave. Listen, I think that as Kraft gets back into the thick of things here with Green Bay, it's gonna slowly fade out Musgrave. So I don't see him having a big role this week in this game against the Colts. I personally see Kraft coming out as the better option of the two tight ends for Green Bay. So I would caution starting him if you got a better option. My next choice here is Calvin Ridley. I think that the Titans really struggled last week, and as much as I believe that they've got an explosive offense, this isn't the week. They're playing the Jets. The Jets' defense is tough. They got probably one of the best defensive backfields in the league. I think Ridley's going to struggle in this game. If anybody has a game in for the Titans this week, I think it's going to be Tyler Boyd. That's just my opinion.
I can see that.
I would shy away from Ridley. I mean, obviously, if you don't have any other better options, you'll have to start him. But I just don't think he's going to be having a great game, and I think it may not even be what he did last week. I mean, I know he had 50 yards last week. I think it's going to be less than that. So I think this is going to be a tough matchup for him, and that's why I got him sitting. And then my next sit is Javonte Williams for Denver. I don't know what's going on with Javonte. I don't really have a lot of faith um, in that backfield right now, at least not at the start of the season. Maybe it's just a slow start. I'm hoping it's a slow start because I think Javonte's got a lot of talent. But I also think they're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers this week, and the Steelers defense looked really good last week. I don't I don't see any indication of this defense slowing down right now, and I think it's going to be a tough game for the Broncos, and they're going to end up probably passing the ball a lot. Uh, so I just think that means Javonte's not going to have a great game. So I wouldn't start him. I definitely would look at a better option for this week. My next sit is Chuba Hubbard for the Panthers. Listen, I first of all, the Chargers defense is pretty good, and Harbaugh's got them, and his coaching staff has got them where they should be right now. I think the Chargers are gonna take advantage of the poor play of the Panthers defense. So I think that means the Panthers are going to be playing from behind, which means that their running game is probably going to be non-existent. I see Miles Sander probably being a little bit a better option in this game for them because most likely, they're going to be relying on the passing game, and I think Miles Sanders is probably going to be a little bit more active there. So I would shy away from Hubbard for sure. In this game, it's not a great matchup, and I definitely wouldn't recommend starting him as well. And then my last one here is Trevor Lawrence. Listen, I'm not a huge Trevor Lawrence fan. Um, you know, I know he signed that big contract. I know the Browns lost last week against the Cowboys, but Dak Prescott really didn't light up the world last week either. So I think the Browns defense is going to bounce back, and they're going to put a lot of pressure on Lawrence. I think Miles Garrett is going to have a really good game, so I think that's gonna force Lawrence into making a lot of mistakes. So from a fantasy perspective, I think he's gonna struggle to get um, you know close to that 200 yard mark, and I definitely could see him throwing one or two interceptions. Obviously, if he's your only option, go with him. But if you got a better option at quarterback, I would definitely look at that other option.
We'll get in on into mine. The first one's going to be a little bit different here than our normals on screen, but any of the Panthers wide receivers and running backs in my eyes are just not it this week. They are playing a divisional matchup against a pretty solid defense. I don't think a lot of people were expecting the Chargers defense to look that good last week, and I think they kind of showed that they're kind of going to be a hard team to beat this year. So I think realistically that any of these wide receivers or any of the running backs are really going to struggle here. I had high hopes for Deontay Johnson, but Bryce Young just does not look good right now, and because of that, I just don't have faith in Deontay. Then I also don't have faith in Thielen or Leggett or any of their receivers there. I think that's going to make it a little bit harder on the run game as well because you can't really rely on it, and I think they are going to go down early in this game. And I think it's going to be really early because I think Bryce Young will probably throw an early pick. It, it's just not looking good there in the Panthers camp in my eyes. Still, they've surrounded Young with talent, and he's. I know it's week one, but like he just really looked bad last week. And until I see like good play from him, I personally wouldn't feel comfortable putting any of the receivers or running backs as a starter right now. So that's why I kind of just went with the sit with basically the whole entire offense. But
You gotta have faith, man. Gotta
can't have faith with the quarterback that's done nothing yet. Moving on, Cortland Sutton. I really like Cortland Sutton, and he actually had a lot of targets last week. But they're playing a pretty solid Pittsburgh defense who really didn't allow a whole lot last week from the Bears receiving core. So I could see Sutton struggling a little bit in this game, not getting open, but more so from the Knicks end of thing. I think he's going to be pressured quite a bit, and I think a lot of the balls thrown Sutton's way are just going to be not catchable balls. Like they're going to be really high or low, or there's nowhere near him because I think Knicks is going to be under a lot of pressure all game, and I think that's just enough said there because they put a lot of pressure on Williams last week and they looked good. So I could see any of the wide receivers here in this offense struggling. I think the running back crew will struggle a little bit too. It's just a really tough matchup, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I just see this offense struggling. And moving on, and I hate to put him on this list. Aaron Jones of the Vikings. He had a really good week one. I will give him that, but I just think going into this matchup against the 49ers that not only him, but I think the offensive line is going to struggle against the 49ers defense. They looked really good last week against the Jets, who have Brees Hall, top three running back in the league right there, and he only put up 50 yards rushing in that game. He was more involved in the passing game where he had another, I think, 45 yards there as well. So the only way I see Jones having a lot of value in this game is if he's utilized a lot in the passing game because, um, like we said last week, our interior is not the greatest right now for Jones, and I just see him struggling to run the ball in this game unless they get him outside, like a lot of outside handoffs. I could see him maybe having a decent game, but this 49ers defense is really good, and I just personally think Jones will struggle in this game as well as Chandler. So I'd kind of sway away from him this week. I mean, you could play him as a flex or an RB2, but I think if there's a better option there, I'd start him. Me personally, at least. And then moving on, Zach Moss. I just think this Bengals offense after week one just looked horrendous. And I think their running back group right now wasn't utilized to their fullest. I don't think it's necessarily on the players, but um, I don't know. I just have a gut feeling that Zach Moss is going to have another slowish week. His touchdown saved him last week. I don't think he's going to have a touchdown this week. I think he's going to have about the same amount of yards this week, and I could totally see someone like Chase Brown being utilized quite a bit more and have maybe a touchdown in the receiving game or something along those lines. I just think Zach Moss is not the running back for this game. And then lastly, I put Tyler Johnson. I know there's a lot of hype around him right now, but um, it was really just one pass that got him a bulk of his yards. He did catch it quite a bit, and for me personally, I haven't seen consistent play since Tyler's been in the league. But you do have Puka out. There might be some potential there. You got a few other receivers that we could see in the mix as well there from Thomas and Tutu Atwell. So
well, don't forget about Parkinson, their tight end.
That's true.
He actually might be the kind of sleeper pick for them this week, given they're playing the Cardinals defense.
yeah. So me personally, I wouldn't start Tyler Johnson as a flex. I'd kind of just keep it to Cooper Cup, Kyron, and like one of their tight ends, Parkinson, like you said. So I think after you go from passing the ball to Cup, I think after that it's really a toss up between Johnson, Thomas, and Atwell. So
Alrighty. Well, no, I agree. I think I like to see Tyler do well. I just think that I keep hearing that Robinson's going to have a bigger role. And Robinson was actually out on the on almost all their snaps last week. I think he was like 100% on their snap count. So I don't think that's going to change for him. And I really do think that Parkinson is the guy to watch from this team this week against the Cardinals. I think Parkinson could be a sleeper pick there. So with that, you got anything to add, Wiggs? All right, well, hey everybody, that's our start six sits for week 2. Check us out on Fantasy Fools PPR on YouTube. Don't forget about Snapchat, X, TikTok, Instagram. Like, share, subscribe. We hope you're finding this information useful. We're not going to hit on everything and stuff, but hopefully you find it beneficial and another resource. And until next time, we'll see you soon.